In today's episode, Julie asks, what's the right marketing budget? We hear this question a lot during this time of year because marketers are facing new strategies, new plans, and of course, new budgets. And the answer to this question is a lot more complicated than it sounds. It requires a fair amount of research on your part. It requires some market research. It requires understanding the goals, everything that goes into marketing. Asking this question straight up like this is like asking, what's the bill for dinner going to be before you've even decided what you're going to have or where you're going to go, or asking the doctor, like, what's my budget for surgery? And the doctor's like, whoa, slow down. We don't even know what's wrong yet. So how do we approach budgeting? How do we approach marketing budgets? If you have a firm constraint, obviously, if the CFO says, hey, you got $10,000, that's all I can spare, that's literally all we've got in the can, and says there's no use case or business case at all, we have what we have, then that's your budget, right? That's pretty straightforward. That's probably the easiest and unfortunately the most difficult type of budget to work with, because there is no flexibility on the part of the company, and that happens. The second question to ask, if there is flexibility, or if you've been asked, hey, what should the budget be? The question is, what are the goals? What are the goals that the company is trying to achieve? If the CEO has said, hey, this year we got to have 15% growth year over year, or 15% revenue growth, that's when you can start to back into what your budget will be. Because if you think about your marketing operations funnel, you have revenue from existing customers, revenue from new customers, which you have sales, deals closed, you have sales deals, and then you have opportunities and proposals, and then you have leads, you have prospects, you have audience. And if you layer this funnel together and you put all of your analytics together, you can reverse engineer, work backwards to what each layer of your funnel brings in for revenue, and then what it costs for that. So, for example, if you do this whole process, let's say a sale is worth $1,000, and you do everything and you find out that eventually a lead is worth $10, and a website visitor is worth $1, because it takes 10 website visitors to get to one lead. In that example, if you know that a visitor is worth $1, you know that, and the CEO has said 15% revenue growth, then you're going to need 15% more of everything to get to that 15% growth. So what does it cost you to get qualified web traffic? And whatever that is, say it's $5 visitors, because you make it up on the customer lifetime value down the road, then you're going to need 15% more of that every day, every week, every month, every year. And you can give them a budget and say, if it costs us $10,000, this year it's going to cost us $11,500 to get you the amount of traffic that you need in order to hit that 15% revenue goal, right? So that's a case where there's a revenue goal, and you can reverse engineer your marketing to your costs to figure out what you're going to need for a budget. If the goals aren't clear for the company, that's a separate problem, but you can benchmark off of what similar companies charge for or use as their marketing budgets. So if you are not familiar with the CMO Survey, it's a fantastic twice-a-year survey released by Duke University and I think one of the big consulting firms. I can't remember which one. And they release interviews with 500 CMOs and talk about major things like budgeting. So let's go over and take a look here. Since 2012, which is when the question was first asked, what is marketing spending as a percentage of company revenues? We've seen it been as high as 11%, and in the most recent one of August 2018, about 7.3%. So if the company's overall revenues are, $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million or $1 billion, the marketing budget, the spending, is 7.3% of that. And then you can go down, and this is by the way, it's a fantastic resource just to read in general. But you can see by category, B2B spends 5.4%, B2B product, B2B service 7.1%, B2C product 10%, B2B services 8.9%. And so if you're looking at an overall top line budget, that this gives you a good sense of what is the spend calibrated, what is the industry average for your sector. And you can download the detailed data for specific industries to find your vertical. You can see like some of them, like internet sales or education is a top spender in that category. So that's a way to get at the top line number if your company's goals are just flat out not clear. Now, one of the challenges with this approach is that this gives you the overall top line budget. You know, a company's going to spend 10% of their revenue on marketing. Well, great. If your company's $100 million, you can spend $10 million on marketing. How do you calibrate that? How do you turn that into something that's more channel specific? The way to do that is with attribution analysis, and you need to have really good attribution analysis in order to say, this is what we should allocate our budget based on the impact of each given channel. So let me show you an example of an attribution analysis. This is one done using machine learning. It's a type of machine learning called Markov chains. And what it does is you run it against something like your Google Analytics data to say, like, where do our conversions come from? And it will mix and match all the different channels and steps that people take based on your existing data and kind of like play digital Jenga with them to understand, like, this channel results, it always causes a conversion, or this channel never causes a conversion. And by doing this a few million times with your data, you get a sense of this is the impact of that channel. So in this case, for this particular example, this customer's organic search, 19.7% of conversions were strongly impacted by organic search. If I'm trying to figure out budget, guess what? 19.7% of my budget's going to go to organic search work, to SEO work, to make it work better, and to keep that channel strong. Email, 12.8%. So again, if I'm trying to figure out what to spend, now if I've got $100,000 and I want to spend $12,870 on email, that's email service provider fees, that is people time, that is creative. So when you do your marketing budget, you do have to account for all the different costs and figure out how to allocate that budget. It's not just hard dollars. You want to allocate people time this as well. Then there's Twitter, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So attribution analysis will then help you take that marketing budget, whatever the dollar amount you get is, and slice it up according to the different channels and allocate it appropriately. This is something that you can do. You can use machine learning to do a very sophisticated way, but you can even do it with built-in tools in Google Analytics. They're not as good, but they're okay, and they're certainly better than just guessing. So what's the right marketing budget? The last consideration is if there's a strategic imperative that requires you to do things differently, to say, hey, we're going to grow our audience on Facebook, or we're going to grow our referral traffic, or we know that the industry is moving to voice search, and so we're going to double down on SEO, do the attribution analysis, and then manipulate the numbers, push them, say, okay, we're going to instead of 19% of organic search, we're going to go to 22%, and that extra 3% is going to go towards organic search, towards voice search, and we're going to make that our thing. So that's the last factor in this, is if there's a strategic imperative that will have to override some of the calculations, but you want to start with these calculations first so that you can then make sensible adjustments and maybe either pull from certain channels, because at the end of the day, you still have that same pile of money you're working with. So really good question, a very complex question. It will take you some time to do this. It will take you time and effort to do the calculations, but if you do them well, you'll use your marketing budget well. You will invest smartly in your marketing, and you'll get the best possible result with the resources you have. So great question, Julie. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter, and join our free Slack group, which you'll find in the show notes. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.